Hi, we're live. I don't know how many of you charming folks are out there. Oh, a few. Fake Hole, thank you for being here. I'm going to let people kind of get in because today we're going to be looking at some different stuff. We're going to be handling things a little bit differently. And I'm going to respond to the questions that I had. I had five of them, but a couple of them are a little complex. Most of them, oddly enough, this time really were about crystals. Like, what do I need for this? And what do I need for that? And I don't know how many viewers we're going to have because when I planned this, I forgot that they were going to be pillorying Kevin McCarthy in the Congress on the TV.
You know
So
what?
what?
That whole thing. I mean, you know what? I feel like I don't even need to watch because I know what's going to happen. But that's not
Yeah.
because I have any kind of intuitive ability. I don't want to watch because I almost feel like I'm going to laugh, and that seems wrong.
Oh no,
Like
watching them laugh.
no, but I mean like he's
Trust
sweating,
me.
like he's totally sweating, and I think that he should. I think he should.
Well, they all set this up. They had 100 different ways to cut it off, and let's not
Absolutely.
discuss it anymore. Ugly energy.
Yeah. Hi
So people are
everybody.
starting to come
Happy New
in.
Year.
Okay, the um, I think I'm going to go through some of the questions first, and then we'll get the uh, to the grids. And I have
By
the
the
one I
way,
did. Hmm?
can I just say I really appreciate the fact that you picked that backdrop and I wore this color so I match. I
Yes.
didn't know that, so that was good.
Well, I try so hard. Actually, that's exactly what it used to look like in the entry to where my parents' home was. We lived out in the country I mean, it was a planned community, but in the winter, that's what the roads would look like
Yeah,
going into Timberline. Although
beautiful.
we were one of the first places that used to get plowed out because they also called it Pill Hill because so many doctors lived there. And if they cleaned out those roads, they could get them to St. Joseph's.
Right, right.
What you learn to live with in the snow. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to show JR's question. My crystal question is which one is best to bring along when traveling? And for travel, I actually am wearing this is a malachite heart. Malachite's wonderful because it protects your heart energy and it's a very good shielder. And when I used to read, I always wore this necklace and a different one. I'd rotate them because they would protect me. Shungite is an excellent protection. It absorbs all kinds of negativity. And I think when you're out traveling and you're just walking around in strange energy, that's what you kind of need to watch out for. But also yellow jasper, which invites kind people in,
I
which
love
is,
that.
and rhodonite, which is a reddish blue. It's red, a little bit of gray, brown. It's kind of looks like a rolled up conglomerate. Kind of looks like a marble with a lot of pinky red in it.
I
It's
have
very
my Smarties.
oh good.
This is rose quartz, obviously, right? This just
Hmm.
makes people happy, and so I like to have that with me
Yep.
when I'm going into a situation that I'm not familiar with. Because, as everyone knows, I have anxiety panic disorder, and going into environments that I'm not familiar with, just the idea of going in there makes me nervous. So this just I feel allows me to attract happy energy towards me.
Hmm.
And this is a blue quartz.
Hmm.
And it's just very calming. And the fact that they feel like Smarties and look like Smarties, they're the same color as Smarties, just makes me happy. The only
That's
problem is there's no chocolate.
yeah. Well, no, that's not a problem. You get all the comfort without the. Um. Anyway, so Jr. Those would be my questions. Those would be the ones to take when you're traveling, and also if you have a quartz or an old stone you've owned for a long time that you can just fit in your pocket and take it with you. You can also somewhat set a stone with an intention. I had a client once, and he had a lot of well, I mean, who doesn't? But he had a lot of mother problems, and going home to visit his mom, his mother was one of six sisters, and all the sisters would fight. He was the one male child that any of them had.
Wow.
So when he would show up, they would want him to play peacemaker. But it's like there's no good way to make peace when it's six sisters that have been together for that long.
Right.
So he said, every time I go home, I feel like I'm like the little 10-year-old child that's been put on the corner again. And I said, okay, so we found a stone on my table and we programmed it for him to keep it in his pocket. And whenever they started in, all he'd have to do is grab the stone and it would pull him away from that energy. And when he came back from his trip home at Thanksgiving, he said, "Oh my God, I cannot tell you what it was like. I'd reach in and I'd feel it and I'd reach in it, remind me I don't have to do that anymore." So it depends on what you want your stone to protect you from or give you, what strength you want it to give you. Okay. This one, this said, love, peace, life. Thanks. Have you ever made grids using a spiral? If not, why? Well, actually I have. And I pulled this out of my archive of, gonna hide your thing. A lady made this that lives in Missouri or Southern Illinois. I don't know, but she lives near the mountains somewhere there. She worked, and this is an old piece of wood that she had cut into a slab, and she was going to do some kind of artwork with it sometime. So she ended up being inspired by watching me build grids, and this was her grid, and that's a spiral, and I think it's incredibly strong.
It is absolutely stunning.
Mm-hmm. And then for me, this is taken from one of the cards I took. Unfortunately, the photographs don't frame into this format as well as it should, but it's like it's a giant untwisting grid. And it's called, and the name of the card is called Transition, and it's for rearranging and changing all your energy. And I've made several of these, and this is the one that I like the picture of the best. But and the way I've always seen that card, and when you read what's going on in that card, what it's about is the normal sort of circular grid that I work with it's unwinding itself and it's spinning out to recreate itself again in a different way. And so I have worked with spirals. Gotta get you out. Okay. Now,
Nancy Jean, you had a question. You had a question at 1:05 your time for
okay. 1:05. Okay, show. Blue apatite helps you communicate, and blue apatite and blue azurite are both stones I use a lot as accent stones. As a matter of fact, when I get into the 3 grids I built today and what's in them, there's some azurite which goes along with apatite. And the characteristics of azurite are wisdom, truth, dignity, and spiritual mastery. And that's some of the same. And yes, it will help you with anxiety. It'll help you feel your strength. So keep watching out for those. Okay. And then this is another question that came in. If there's no moonlight available to charge crystals, is there another way to do this? Too much cloud cover and living in an apartment makes it difficult. Yeah, there's selenite, and that's a selenite tray that's made for recharging crystals.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, don't put stuff out in the moonlight unless you know your neighbors and you know you're going to come back and find it there.
Right. Some critter is going to take off with it in the middle of the night.
Also, the other thing about leaving stones out in the sunlight, and this has actually happened to a friend of mine, he had some beautiful quartz and he left it out in the sunlight, and it refracts through just like when you aim a mirror and focus the light. And he did start a small fire by the edge of his house. So I'm not wild about putting stuff in the outdoors. One of the things you can do is, if you want to sort of cleanse some crystals, you think they've been around negative energy or whatever, you can bury them in rice and let them sit for 24 hours, and the rice grains will pull that energy out. Now, the trick after that is you don't eat that rice, because if you eat that rice, then you eat that energy. So there are a lot of other ways to if you eat that rice, you eat that energy. So there are
Sorry.
Uh-oh, that's your phone. I know. I'm like hearing myself. I'm like, they have meds for that. Um, but there, I've talked about his books before, and you can go back and see. I'm trying to get him on. He's a crystal expert from England. His name is Ethan Lazzarini, and I know the Lazzarini doesn't sound like he should have grown up in York, but he did. And he is very, very good. And he has some free ebooks. If you go to his either his YouTube pages or to his website, he has some free books you can download, and it's got all this kind of information in it, which I think can be very helpful. Okay. Oh, here's another poor person. Speaking of COVID, if you haven't heard, Danny Shea has COVID, and his wife has had it for over a week, and he thought he was coming down with it when I spoke with him on New Year's Eve. Send love and light, most benevolent outcome to him, because they're in the middle of 10 days of rain and they have a dog that has to be walked, and both of them are sick. So they're not in a good space. They need all of our help and love. And so does TJ, dealing with COVID. What do you find helps symptoms? Going to sleep for like 3 weeks and waking up seems to be the preferable way. She's got the sore throat. Sounds like you've got the Omicron sort. For health, these are specific stones that work. I went looking for them because having had COVID, yeah, you feel like you've been poisoned. So there's a stone called a bloodstone, and I'll actually show it to you in one of these grids. And it's a very dark, dense green stone, but when you put it out in the sun, you can see the red streaks through it, which is probably why it got its name. But it supposedly is very good at helping you purify your blood. And I think that's kind of, you just want to get that toxin out of your system. Green aventurine is good for you. It'll boost your energy, but don't use it to boost your energy to go do something you shouldn't do. Use it to boost your energy so you can heal. And that means taking the energy in restful amounts. Amethyst is soothing, and it's just a comforting stone. So if you get some amethyst, it can help.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Okay. If you've got a problem in your lungs, pyrite's a good stone to keep around you. It works with that. Lapis lazuli boosts your immune system. So what I did after I had COVID, as I carried a piece of lapis around with me, and lapis is a really pretty dark blue stone with silver streaks in it, and sometimes it can have actual real gold veins will run through it. Lapis was used a lot in Egyptian jewelry because of the beautiful blue that it is. Rose quartz, because that lowers your stress, just like you were saying about your rose quartz piece that you carry with you. And turquoise, I think turquoise is, if you look at raw turquoise, it kind of looks like lungs. It's been long used as a way to connect your respiratory system outside of you and to strengthen that immune system. So, one more time: bloodstone, green aventurine, amethyst, pyrite, lapis lazuli, rose quartz, and turquoise. And they don't have to be giant, big, bad chunks. They could be pieces of stone this small, but just have them around and touch them and feel them and see if that helps. And you have my sympathies. It takes a while to get over that. Okay.
Nancy Jean, we do have some questions. So do you want to go through the questions that you've already got? I'm sort of making a note of the time, and then you
right. Yeah. And we'll go back and catch them.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay. This is the one. Okay. I'm answering this question for you. No, I am not going to get a list of all the people in Congress that have served in either party in the military. The problem with our country is in World War II, everybody served. Everybody went in and served. Then we got to Korea and fewer people served. Then we got to Vietnam and we had the draft. And that's why we got rid of the draft, because everybody didn't like serving. So since then, since we created a professional military, which is very good for us to have, but only 10% of the people in this country even have a family member in that's serving. And that's a crime. That's why things get very out of balance. And I agree. I think if someone served in the military and then comes back out and serves in government, I think they're better government servants. that doesn't mean someone who hasn't been in the military can't be very good. But and if I would think about doing what you're asking me to do, and it's a lovely suggestion. But I only talk politics on Sundays. So when I'm with Scott, and I'll talk to him, I'll send that suggestion on to him. And because he served in the military, he did, I think 2 to 4 years in the Air Force. Only daughter, made it back to California. Obviously, you weren't flying on Southwest. Any crystals that can help with love and career. Actually, any crystal that you have faith in can help you with love and career. It's your intentions that go on that crystal. There's carnelian, which relates to the heart, to the blood, and to what flows through us. Bloodstone can help you get out of toxic relationships. Red jasper can protect you from negative energies. But those are all the characteristics. I mean, what's wrong with your love and what's wrong with your career, or how do you want to boost it? And then just Google crystals that will help me, blah. And you'll get a whole lot of suggestions, and you'll see crystals that are consistent within the list. Everybody has their own special little thing they throw in, but so try that, because I love answering y'all's questions, but I don't want you to think I'm the only person who can tell you. And now we're going to do what she asked.
But you're the bestest person.
Yeah, well, no, I've just seen more. I just have more of them around me. Oh, I want you to know, I spent one day over the Christmas holidays. Now I'm going to throw in the garden for 2023. I went into my drawers, and they were so mixed up and such a mishmash. And I'm not sure how good it's going to look on here. I'm going to raise you up a little bit. You guys can't see what I'm doing, but no. I'm fixing the camera so that it's on the garden. Okay. We're going to roll just a general roll for all of us for what 2023 is going to be like. And it's going to be really fast, kids, but I went in and I cleaned out all my drawers, and where I had mixed stones together, where I was styling with them. We're going to make the table big. And you and I are going to be beside. Okay. And I cleaned them all out, and I found a wonderful app on my phone, and it allows you to take a picture of a stone, and then it will identify what it is.
Beautiful.
So I took out stones. I knew what they were, checked it out, worked like a dream. So I finally got all my stones in the right bags with the right names and everything else. And
awesome.
So, okay, we're going to see 2023 for the community that's here today. Oh, cool. Well, our body's in the sacral, which means this is going to be a great creative year. Energy is going to be freed by using creativity, and our spirit's kind of in a cool place. It's between heart, solar plexus, restate, fire, and all that. And it's one of those that you have to read everything. Spirit makes your heart alive, and power comes. This is showing a lot of transformation, movement. What we're going to have to go back and look at some crap we probably don't want to look at, which is we're going in the right direction, but we're going to be constantly kind of adjusting our direction to see where we go. It's this spirits and fire, and thoughts from the past will constantly be coming back up. So and I keep hearing this from readers. Most people feel like 2023 isn't going to feel like it's really started till March. We're going to have a couple months of feeling other ways about it. We've got spirit connecting with our values here in Earth, and it's transforming right now. It's not yet finished. We're going to be working on getting rid of false situations. And what we have here is we have our values in Earth, which is great. And it's a lot of movement, a lot of stuff's being brought forward. The mind hid in air and water, and in air, your thoughts are all important. And this says to let go of limitations, which I think is really nice. And for clarity on what the whole mess is about, We're in air and water too. And says always, when you think about things, always make sure your thoughts you're clear about what you're really seeing. And and it says all will move forward when you have the clarity you need. Follow those many paths, and you're going to write a lot of difficult situations. So I think it's going to be a great year. Just I like the vibrations of all of that. Now
Beautiful.
we're going to go in and look at some of your questions, and then at the very end, I'm going to show you I have the grid I made for the world, which is my children decided that my ego has no bounds. You're making a grid for the whole world.
Nancy Jean, everyone's asking about the app that you mentioned that can identify the crystals.
Okay, it is.
And then I can type it in the chat if you want.
Okay. Rock identifier. And that's its name. It's rock identifier.
Okay.
And it has a little function. You take a picture and it tells you what to do. And if you it gives you some really good information on different kinds of stones. And it actually gives you states in America where you can go look for stones that are good places to find lots of different things. North Carolina, Nevada, Oregon, a couple in North Carolina, Montana, and Arkansas.
Cool.
And it's actually designed for a parent to help their children create a rock collection.
I love that.
So
I put it in the chat.
Okay.
There's lots of people were
and
asking.
I use an Android. Now I know sometimes I've had apps and my Apple friends couldn't get it. I'm not responsible for how they organize their lives. Okay, what do we got? Okay. Do you want to start on? The only question I see is the one on blue apatite, so I can start in
109 is the first question that you had from Rowena Wolf. That's the right one.
I'm going to remove you because we're not going to see you for a little bit. Okay. 109, Rowena Wolf. Do you use crystal tuner to clean crystals? You can use a tuning fork. You can use a singing bowl. You can use a drum. You can use a candle flame, not too close, and certainly not if it's amber, because amber will burn because it is just very, very, very old sap. But you can clap over them to clear them. Just the same. It's the same thing as cards. How do you clear your cards? What methods do you use? But if there's a thing called a crystal tuner, I don't know what you mean. I mean, I know that there's like the selenite sheet you showed that you have on your desk. Okay, we're going to make us equal. Yes, there. Now we're equal.
They have selenite bowls. This is what do they call this? A charging plate or a charging
That's
tray
a charging
or something?
plate. Mm-hmm.
Where you just like sit your crystals on top of the plate like so. I've also heard like you can just take a soft cloth and I've done this before, like on a full moon, for example. I do this. I'll take out a soft cloth and I'll just sort of clean the crystals, and I feel like I'm very meditative kind of.
Yeah, it's a good time to get in touch with all that stuff.
Yeah. That's how I choose to clean them.
If this is a Melissa Miller, I'm not going to argue with who's ever told you you're autistic. I imagine you're Asperger's level and very high functioning, because the Melissa I know is. But yes, if I had one stone to pick for an autistic, it would be Amazonite, because it really repels negative energy from coming towards you, and it amplifies things that are coming in that are good. And I had my daughter she's not autistic, but she suffers from anxiety at times, and she was having a really hard time finding a job. I mean, she was in a job, but finding a better job. And she was on my grid, and she said, I think being on your grid's like, you can't read me. I can't be on your grid. So she and I sat down and we made it together. And the outermost ring of that grid was Amazonite, about marble-sized pieces of Amazonite. 2 weeks later, she had a new job. So I'm just telling you, kids, that one would help you. Melissa, you've got my email. Send me an email and I'll get you a list, or I'll send you the link to Lazarini's book so you can look up your own, because it's always often best if we find our own way about those sorts of things.
Next one's 111, Libra Lady.
Okay. Is Lemurian quartz real? Okay. Yes, it's real quartz. It's called Lemurian because of striations that are on it. I have a quartz one, and I don't know where it is, but every time we go through a major shift, I think I may know where it is. No, it's not there. You guys have no idea. Needless to say, I don't charge my crystals every month. I'd start and then I'd be to the next full moon before I got
right.
But I have a wand, and it's a shaped piece of quartz. And when I first got it, it has a few of the little inflections in it. You can see different plates. Now it's like got stained glass windows in it. It's so, and it always happens around major earth shifts, energetic shifts, equinoxes, solstices. When Jupiter and Saturn aligned and moved us from being in earth signs to being in air signs, which happened in January 2 years ago. And that happened exactly on the degree of my natal Jupiter. So it was kind of fun. I carried it out there. When I brought it in, it had 3 more there. They look like internal cracks. It's not falling apart, but it's fascinating. Lemurian quartz. And you know, I know that some people say it had to come out of a certain part of South America. The reason I get the stones from the people I buy them from in Dallas is I trust them, and I know I'll get real stones, because there's a lot of stuff you can get that, not a lot, but there are people out there selling stuff that isn't what they say it is. There's a lot of that in the Moldavite market. But Lemurian quartz, I've had some. I have some that has the striations. I have absolutely no idea where it came from. They were given to me as gifts. So I just get a feeling about the person you're buying your crystals from, and how knowledgeable they are and what they know. The crystal shop no, I don't know why you're not supposed to be on there. Oh.
114 is your next question from Prince Charming's mom.
Okay, gotta get back over to comments. 114.
I'm Nancy Jean's personal secretary. I love it.
Yes, listen, guys, this makes this go so much faster.
It does. Every time we go live, we need an assistant to help us with the questions. That truly, it is so helpful. My cat Quincy is here. Sorry.
Oh, yes, sir. Quincy's in the house. What stone assists with sleep? Any of the stones that will calm you down. Moonstones, which obviously have the name to that. Most of the moonstones I find are small little chips. So if you find a chunk of moonstone, light stones, don't pick a stone with a point on it, because points in stones, especially if they're natural points, they are going for your third eye. And that's not what you want being poked while you're trying to sleep at night.
Right.
Quartz can be very helpful. I have a lovely piece of angelite that I put by my bed because it's that very soothing blue. If you look at a stone and you just feel your shoulders drop and your body relax and your energy fall back into your core, that's probably a stone that will help you sleep.
Excellent advice. 118 from Dina. Hi, sweetheart. Hi. Everyone's saying hi to you. Handsome boy, yes.
Okay.
Oh, we got that one. Sorry.
That one. Okay, yeah, it's called Rock Identifier.
Yeah. So the next question is 119 from Vivian.
No, MJ.
Yeah, that was about the
same
app.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are clever and asking the same questions. We want Vivian.
Vivian C.
Oh, Vivian C. Hi. And what night? 119?
Yes.
I love crystals that are in spheres. And of course you do, because your energy gets radiated evenly around the whole surface. Is there a difference between the different shapes? Yes. If you get a heart, you're going to do more heart things. If you can get, you want to get a crystal for your critter, if you can find one that's carved something like what your critter looks like. They're, except we tend to call those totems, but that's really what you're looking for. But I like spheres too, except they're hard to mount in crystal grids because they tend to fall off. But
Next
they
one
can
is,
be
sorry.
okay. Anyway,
Next one is 122 from Lise. Sorry, I thought you were done.
so did I, but I keep talking. Oh, this Lise?
Yep. That's the next question.
Okay, I'm gonna lay some cards quickly for it because I put the garden up. I'm going to ask if you're going to move in the next 6 months, and if it doesn't fall there, well, it's one more. Yeah, you're going to move by June. I got a date card. Your problem is there are times when you're like, let's go do this, and then there are times where you feel like it doesn't meet all the needs of what I want. You're showing up as Queen of Swords, but it means when you make up your mind, you're going to make up your mind. The problem is you're not sure about where you want to move to. You're not sure about the atmosphere you want there when you get there, and you want to move to a place where you can feel your own power. And you're not going to find that place till about June. You may find it in May, but I think you'll be moving in June. Bye-bye. Okay, let's see.
The next one is 126 from Nana in Bro, which is a really, really cute name, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Cold Toes. Very kind. Blessings.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to answer your question when you see how I do a grid, and that'll give you an idea if a grid will help you with that. Yeah. And Jeffrey's in the house, I see. Thank you. Jeffrey and Dr. Gale are part of the myth and the legend of the grids. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and thank you for the $20, and I don't know who put it in.
Cold Toes.
Oh, Cold Toes. Oh, good. Thank you, Cold Toes. Okay. This is okay. Anna, bro, get rid of you. Hi, Kurt. Okay. We're going to go to the table now, and we're going to make the table the big guy. Come on. Come on. Okay. Whoop. There it goes. Okay. You get to see all my messy artwork on the floor. That's not good. My camera kept falling down all morning today when I was setting it up. This is the grid for the world. And the way this came about was, if you watch my shows regularly, and why are you not watching my shows regularly? That's the question. But I had a guy on named Tim Walter, who's a ley line earth energies person. And he came on, and when we were talking, after we close the shows down, we'll tend to sit and talk for a few minutes. I was talking to him, and he said, well, I was fascinated with your grids. Do you only make them for people? And thank you, Sharon. She found the whole link to the rock identifier thing. He said, why don't you make a grid for the world? And I mean, my kids are like, Mom, that's just pretentious as hell. And I said, yeah, I agree. But anyway, so I mentioned it to Jeffrey and I mentioned it to Dr. Gale. And when I was talking to Dr. Gale, she said, well, I have the deck you use, and this is the deck I use to pull the cards for the grids activations. And she said, I've got that. So she pulled the heart chakra. And she said, that's what you need to make. Well, it's a lovely color and it's a great form, but it's a little difficult because I have to use a lot. I mean, I like to use a lot of different crystals. So I knew I had that as the base. And then I was talking to Jeffrey and he said, well, why don't you lay out the cards like you do and I'll pick it and then you can decide if you want to build this or not. Hi, Gigi. And he pulled the Merkaba, which was fascinating because it comes from Hebrew words, and he was explaining to me all about what it means and what it really is. If you've never seen it, it's kind of the end of solid geometry where you start with a point, then you get a line, then you make a circle, then you make all these things. And it's two pyramids, and one's coming up. You can see the blue pyramids coming up and the red pyramids going down, and they're exactly equally mingled together. And it's the message from the Merkaba is it supports our ability to use our consciousness to traverse into the other layers of reality and dimension. It activates access to our own Akashic inheritance as well, merging the totality of our own experiences into the present and to serve the highest purpose. So out of looking at that image and then dealing with the rocks and feeling which ones I wanted to work with, this is what I made. And I will explain to you. What the stones are. This is a solid fluorite, and that's almost all these images you find, except the one I showed you where I had the grid unspiraling. Almost all of them are sort of circular in shape, but one of the ones I'm going to show you that I built in the last couple of days is not. This is a Merkaba. This is a center stone. It's fluorite, which has to do with divine understanding and connections to the earth. This is red jasper, and it helps you deal with anger. And then there's two gold stones, which bring delight and intellectual curiosity, and honey calcite, which brings you balance. And then these three stones are tree moss agate, and they have to do with flourishing in the world. And so that became, that's sort of this little thing, and then these points out here. Then to mix in the blues and the greens, I put green adventurine, which is a very good luck stone. And this, you can get it, it can be much darker than this, or it can be not much lighter than this, and it almost goes into yellow. But so I put 6 green adventurines around for balance. And then I put mother of pearl, which brings in purity of thought and melding human consciousness. And on each one of the mother of pearls, I put a teeny tiny, I don't know if you can, yeah, see the little dots in the middle? Those are blue lace agate drops, and they just, I had to bring out these white parts that I see there. I just felt they needed to be there to enlighten. And then to finish it off, I put some quartz, very pretty clear quartz, very small, that actually are 2 quartz crystals conjoined. When they formed, they came together. So that's at the top and the bottom. And then there's 10 on each side. There's 10 fluorites. And these are octahedrons, which means they're 8-sided, which kind of reflects the same sort of shape that's in the Merkaba. And now we are going to fire this baby up.
Thank you for the super sticker, Murby.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I have, this is an amethyst wand. I have a bag full of wands. Don't you have a bag full of wands at your house? Anyway. You start in the middle. You start in the middle stone. And I'm going to start out into the red. So I'm going to start to the red jasper, to the goldstone and honey calcite, back to the center, goldstone, honey calcite. Now that one's done. Moss agate, do that row. Then I'm going to do the adventuring. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to get all of their energies to blend back into each other. Then I'm going to go out and do the mother of pearls and the blue lace agate. I love blue lace agate.
Beautiful.
It's very pretty, gentle stone. Then we get to do the big outer one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Then I come up from the center stone and I start circling out, and it's already hot. I can already feel the heat coming off of it. I feel heat. Many people feel heat. Some people feel tingling. One reader got a shock up her arm, which kind of scared her. Anyway, yeah, it's fired up. Now, you've all been part of this deal of setting this up to put forward the intentions of, I think, what it's stated so beautifully, that we are living in a certain time. We need to raise our consciousness so we can begin to understand what's happening with the Akashic records. And there's numerology to all this. There's 3s, which are points of change and larger communication. There's 6, which is domestic balance. And then the 10, the fact that there's 10 in numerology, that reduces back to 1, which is initiating a new policy. And if you want to see the kind of paperwork that you get if you get with a grid, I put all the stones and what they do, what their values are on the back. This grid, because somebody wrote me and said, I want a picture of that. If you go to my website, www.crystaldirections.com, and in the resources folder, yesterday my programmer put a picture of this, the description, the letter to Tim in England explaining what I built. And that's what every person who gets a grid from me gets. But what we're going to look at now is I also built 2 other grids, and they're different. So the most different one is the one on communications. And I love this design. And I think I pulled. This is called communications. I'm going to get you out of the way. And it's got 2 large parts here and then 2 smaller ones here. And it's the way the numbers work out on this is I put a little thing in the middle. In the picture itself, it's not this big, but this is a piece of lepidolite, which releases and reorganizes your energy and is to heal you from negativity. And in the very middle of it, I put a little chip of malachite, and it says to open your heart, protect your aura and synchronicity, and for energy. Then you go out to read these are ammonite fossils. You know, those seashells fossils?
Mm-hmm.
I got a whole bag of them. They had some really good ones. And so I only have 2 left after this. The ammonite fossils represent the large chunks of communication energy you've already had. And they bring lasting health, wealth, and happiness. And they stop you from repeating the same mistakes. And on top of that, I have azurite, which brings wisdom, truth, dignity, and spiritual mastery. And that's to enhance your compassion and communicating with others. Then these 2 stones are the smaller of the main parts of this particular form. And they're green adventuring, healing, good luck, and they calm your soul, and they're to bring in abundance. And then, remember I said that there's bloodstone that you can use. Bloodstone can be as light as this or as dark as this. But there's 6 bloodstones here, and they're for purification, courage, and noble sacrifice. They're transmuting energy so that you can communicate more effectively. Then these blue chunky looking guys, these 3, there's 3 here and 3 here. Those are chrysoprase, and those bring thoughts through divine truth, and they bring forth happiness. And then to balance this all out, I've got 4 chunks of sodalite here. And that ends arguments and help you understand patterns. And it's helped this person attract new friends. And that's pulled for her. And when we talked with her, she agreed that's kind of what her life needed at that point. Now the other, so you can see kind of what different say. That one's not as circular and not as symmetrical. Now this one is much more symmetrical, but it would have to be because it's for healing. And
That's
in
gorgeous.
the center of this is a tumbled, crackled quartz. It has a very cracked interior, but what it does is it awakens your third eye and your crown chakra, and it's an awakening because this person wants to get more in touch with that part of themselves. And then around it, these little sort of rough looking things should look like I pulled them out of my alley. Those are actually purple sapphires. They're not gem quality sapphires, but the purple sapphires. They bring protection, good fortune, and spiritual insights. And they're to aim this towards healing in the spiritual life. Then around that are a kind of amethyst. It's called chevron, and it's got a lot of white in it. And it has spiritual values, meditation, and spirit protection. And that's for more psychic development. Then we're getting out into the physical world. Then we have honey calcites, which are these little jobs. They actually look like somebody took honey and made it into a stone. A right use of power and overcome obstacles, and that has to do with health. And then citrine are these lovely, shiny, bright yellowish stones. And they are success stones, clears away negative energy, mental clarity, and those are releasing. And as you notice, they're out from the center, so they're moving the energy out. Then we have green calcite. Remember, I had honey calcite. I love calcite. Green calcite is a translucent green, and it's healing, anxiety, balance, and self-discovery. That's what you want in your outer ring. That's what you're trying to grow out into. And it functions out of your heart. And then I put a piece of Amazonite on top of each of the greens because that's to help this person let go into the healing. And then there's maybe not two, I think, well, there's 2 red carnelians here and 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 here. And then there's a little blue azurite, another tiny piece of azurite. And those little arrows are going back into her citrine where she's releasing. And they're to help her release because the carnelian grounds and directs your spiritual path, and the azurite helps you with wisdom, truth, and dignity.
It's beautiful.
So you can kind of see this one's, its power centers are here and here, and this one, it's really circular. And I'm not going to fire those up because that's for the client to do. They need to fire them up in their own time. And now we make the table go away. And we're going to make us even. Kelly, the star. No, Kelly, take over the show.
Nah. I just think it's absolutely I mean, the grids are stunningly beautiful, and each of them is so unique and individual. And I love that you walk us through and explain to us how a grid comes to be, how it's so individual and how it's so unique. Because when you see it as a whole, you don't necessarily understand how it works. And that last one that you just explained about the healing and why it's shaped in a circular motion to keep that sort of radiating in and out and back and forth, that really helps to sort of, wrap your head around the concept of how a grid could be useful and helpful to you.
And if you go, it's not that I don't want the traffic on my website. I do. But at crystaldirections.com, I have a slideshow, and there's about 90 of some 140. There's just a bunch I haven't put on recently.
Right.
But if you go there, you can see all the different forms. And I've only had one person reject a grid because when she got it, she said, I want mine to be all pink and pretty. And she had pick something that was brown, but it was very ground. It's really what she needed. But I said, well, I give it to a friend. I don't know. And I had one woman, when I built it for her, she saw it and she said, um, I really appreciate all the work you put in that. But she said, I don't want it. And I never got an answer from her why she didn't want it. So I ended up giving it to a reader who'd wanted a grid for a long time. And I just said, here's your grid. And it ends up, it was perfect for where they were at the time.
Beautiful.
And Kelly has talked to me about putting up, like going in and running a slideshow of my grids. And if I can get them shaped better so that they look better from the picture files I have, I'll do that. And I'll kind of go through and explains, when I see certain stones, I know kind of the compassion and the feeling and the mellowing and the balancing they can bring to people. And I'll grab those. And the worst I ever did to myself at the crystal store is I went in and bought $800 worth of crystals and like a pound of crystals was $12 to $15, $18. And that's how many I bought. And I'm still living on that stash of crystals. And I'm so glad I did it, because one of the things that's happening, and the place I work with, thank you. I like Vernie 444. You rock. Thank you.
I love that.
If I really can't find something, they'll find it for me. One time I needed to find a rutilated quartz, and they didn't realize it, but it was as COVID had started, and the best rutilated quartz in the world comes out of Brazil, and their mines are closed because of COVID, and it was hard to get it. So I got the last 300 little rutilated quartz ones. Rutilated quartz is quartz that has other metals that were in them when they formed their crystals. Mm-hmm. So it looks like there's little wires of silver or gold. Those Beautiful. Actually are silver or gold or platinum in them.
Interesting. I mean, for me personally, and I'm sure that other people have different reasons why they enjoy anytime you talk about the grids. For me, it's about the association between each of the stones within the formation mm-hmm. that I find so fascinating. And here's the thing, I'm not like, tooting your horn, but I am tooting your horn, because lots of people know about crystals. And this is speaking for myself. I don't know many people that know crystals when you start to match them up and associate them with other crystals, right? That's what you do, that I appreciate when you explain the grid, because I can now, this one plus this one plus this one is going to get me that result that I'm looking for. And that's the information that I'm trying to find. So I find that super helpful.
Yes, black tourmaline will show up inside a quartz. That's another rutilated quartz. Anytime, it's a weird word, and it's a German word. Rutilated is RUTILATED. And my old spelling champ days. But they're to me, they're fascinating. And you can find stones and stones. When you can find stones that are on a matrix, that makes them look so, it shows you where they naturally come from.
Right. Absolutely.
So
I just recently went to a crystal shop that I have local in my community, which I didn't even know that it was even here. And I did it on a live, and I took everyone through, not because I was going to the crystal store, but because of another reason, because I have anxiety and I isolate. I don't leave my home. And anyways, what a fascinating trip that was. I mean, the whole concept of being in a place with all that power and all of that energy, it almost like can get you like really amped up and excited. Like I felt like I was going to a rock concert, not a rock shop, but it was beautiful. I mean, just everything was glistening and shining and powerful and energetic. And I literally walked out of there like feeling like I was on top of the world. You know what I mean? I just felt so great and so energized.
Yeah. I have to be careful when I go to the rock shop. I It's not for financial reasons, but I can only spend about 45 minutes there.
Right.
And then I have to get out because there's, I never meant to get this close to rocks. And I was not a rock kid. As a little kid, my best friend had this enormous collection of stones, and her family, her parents actually flew airplanes, and they would fly all over the country and they'd go visit all these things, and she'd bring back all this stuff.
Beautiful.
And I go, oh, that's nice. And, and then I found out that it works. And for me, it's the one place, it's the one thing that I work with that I really feel totally guided and almost out of my own self when I'm doing it. Matter of fact, when I finished healing, I came up, I told my daughter while I'm done, she goes, how many of those little boogers do you have back there? And I said, I've got 3 completed. And she said, are they going to leave the house soon? Because when I get more than 3 grids in this house, she feels it. She feels their energy.
That's really super interesting. And it's, I mean, when you go to the rock shop, sometimes that can happen to you, right? You can sort of like pick up too much power. Sherry at 155 is asking if you've ever heard of the Zapper, a small microelectric little gadget made with 2 pennies, helps with healing viruses.
Nope. Mm-mm. Can't help you. And if you help people, I don't know. I'll look it up. I'll see what I can find out about it.
Yeah. Eliza says her mother was rabid about bringing rocks home from her travels.
Well, there are people like that. I have had friends who collected the weirdest things when they travel.
Yep.
I had a friend she was Vivian Lee's understudy on Broadway. I mean, she was really a good actress. And she ended up being an actress here in Dallas and was married to a director. And they were so much fun. But what she did is every place she went, she found scented soaps. And she'd always bring back about 6 bars of scented soaps. And she said so she could have that trip and that memory until she used the last little bit of the last little bar of soap.
I kind of like that. I kind of think that, I mean, you know, back in the day, you would collect spoons, right? Everywhere we went, we had to bring my Nana a spoon to put on the wall. So it just sat there and collected dust. And, you know, I don't know that it did anything for her. And she just kept accepting them because what else was she going to do? But having something like that, something that you can actually use, you know what I mean? To continue to create those memories. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that.
And so guys, I don't know what else I can say except that I'm going to go sit in my living room and be brain dead and watch the Republicans be brain dead. No, I'm making chicken wings for dinner tonight. So
I love that. Today is my only day off this week. So.
Oh, and I forced you out of retirement.
Well, actually, what you did was you saved me from doing laundry because literally I just said to my husband last night, don't worry, I'll get all the laundry done tomorrow because it's my day off. And then Nancy Jean sent me an email and I was like, phew, got out of that. So
this I will tell you, people are talking about collecting stones. Don't take stones, rocks, sticks, anything from sacred ground. And this is a true story. My youngest got married and they weren't going to have a real big honeymoon for a while. So they decided to go to the Grand Canyon, which I would have considered a real big honeymoon, but you know, they're young and make more money than sense. So they went to the Grand Canyon and they had a roommate, they had a friend that they were helping. She lived with them because they lived in this huge apartment and she took care of the cats and stuff when they traveled. And she wrote him and she said, did you guys have ants in here before? And they went, ants? No, we never had ants in the apartment. So they came and she had to get the cats out and they, you know, did whatever they needed to do to get rid of the ants. And she said, are there ants in other people's apartments? And the maintenance guy said, no, you know, and it was a new building. Yes, they have to be. That's part of what the speaker does is he swears them in. So anyway, they came home from their vacation and the ants were back and they went looking all over in the closets where anything could have, happened that
Yeah.
would have caused the ants. And I went out to dinner with them, and we were eating at Benihana's, which is their favorite place to eat. And we were talking, and they were telling me about their trip. And she says, "Oh, and I found this really cool looking stone at this base in the Grand Canyon." And I said, "You what?" And she said, "I found this really cool stone at the base of Grand Canyon." I said, "Where is it?" She said, "Well, I picked it up." And then I said, "That may have something to do with the ants." And they said, "No, because the ants were in the apartment before we got home." I said, "No, the ants came to where you live. It's called an infestation. You have just been pranked by the forefathers of this country." And she said,
Wow.
"Well, what the hell do we do?" And I said, "You can't just throw it away. They had to mail it back to Grand Canyon."
Yeah.
That's if you do that. So don't pick up stones from sacred places because you think it's cool.
Yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
you like ants.
Yeah, no. I was never a rock collector as a kid either. I thought they were pretty and I thought they were interesting, and I probably would have collected them if my mother hadn't put her foot down and said, like, "What the heck are you going to do with 8,000 bags or 8,000 pounds of rock?" So seashells too, right? As little kids, you like to collect that stuff.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, thank you all for coming. Yeah, that Eliza, they have actually the national parks report that they get stones nailed back to them all the time. It's just that ground was made sacred for a reason, and we just need to leave it alone.
Right.
And I'm so glad y'all could come, and let's see what if it does. Maybe the grid's already working. What are they on the fourth vote?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Thanks everybody for joining us today, and thank you, Nancy Jean, for having me on. And Happy New Year to everybody.
Okay, and Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you for everyone who joined us today. Remember to like and subscribe. For some reason, YouTube took away 10 of my subscribers again. So, and if what really helps us is if you have a friend collects rocks or might be interested in what went on today, why don't you share it with them, or share it on your Facebook page. Say, "I saw this interesting show." If you do that, that helps us all. Okay.
Absolutely.
Take care. Bye.